What's up guys, Sean here, and today we're going to talk about Hillary Clinton running into the Great Wall of Tulsi Gabbard and not coming out of it unscathed. Now, if you haven't been able to tell by perusing the backlog that is my channel, I don't really like to talk about Hillary Clinton too much on this channel. And one of the reasons I don't like to talk about Hillary Clinton on this channel is because one of the great joys of her losing the 2016 election is the fact that we, as a society, should not have to talk about Hillary Clinton anymore. Because honestly, the fact that this person is so prevalent in our society, despite the fact that her greatest individual accomplishment is marrying a guy who turned out to be one of the presidents of the United States, is a little absurd considering all the media attention that she has gotten over her life, and still gets to this day. But unfortunately, Hillary Clinton won't go away. She won't disappear like failed presidential candidates of old, and every now and again, she still rears her ugly head to remind us all that she exists and that she still thinks that she is entitled to the presidency. Now, for a while, the phases of Hillary Clinton having to continue on knowing that she lost an election to the one candidate in American history who was more unpopular than her, a reality TV game show host, was amusing. I'm sure we all remember Hillary Clinton lost in the woods being randomly discovered by a jogger. But while it is fun for me to laugh at somebody like Hillary Clinton, and it's really hard to make the case that anybody deserves to be laughed at more than Hillary Clinton, we have moved on from the hilarious to the sad, depressive, and borderline delusional version of Hillary Clinton. This is a recent clip that I saw on my timeline of Hillary Clinton talking about whether or not she should run again against Donald Trump.
Tweet this morning. So maybe there does need to be a rematch. I mean, obviously I can beat him again, but just
beat him before and she could beat him again in a rematch. This woman does realize that Donald J. Trump is the president of the United States, and she is somebody who is wandering around doing podcast interviews and going on cable complaining about the fact that Donald Trump is the president of the United States. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Look, Sean, she's obviously talking about the popular vote. What she's saying is that she beat Donald Trump in the popular vote, and in her opinion, the popular vote should matter more than the Electoral College. And what I would respond to that with is, every president since George Washington has been chosen via the Electoral College system. If you don't win the Electoral College system, you don't become president. Donald Trump is not the first president to not win the popular vote and then become president. So the idea that Hillary Clinton, who has been trying to be president ever since her husband, somebody who was actually competent enough to win the presidency twice, cannot square it with herself that the popular vote is not what we choose our presidents based on, is an absurdity in and of itself. And I would add to that this is the same exact woman who, before a single ballot was cast in the Democratic primary, had locked up the vast majority of superdelegates. So it's not like Hillary Clinton is somebody who doesn't know when the votes matter and when the votes don't matter, because she was busy locking up the superdelegates before any voting actually started. Now, while Hillary Clinton's attempts to blame everybody but herself for her 2016 campaign failing, I mean, again, this is a woman who didn't go to Wisconsin, which was a swing state. Now, while that can be read as sad and pathetic, there's also a vicious component to her denials. And one of the ways that vicious component manifests is the way that she and her surrogates attack people that they perceive to be Hillary Clinton's enemies, whether they're in the Republican Party, whether they're independent candidates, or whether they're in her own party, like in the case of Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I know a lot of people like Tulsi Gabbard in my audience. She's quite the popular candidate on the interwebs. But as I've said previously, I am not a big fan of Tulsi Gabbard, and one of my biggest problems with her is her positions on domestic policy. This is somebody who resigned in 2016 from the DNC because she felt they were cheating Bernie Sanders. After she resigned, she immediately endorsed Bernie Sanders, and her agenda is pretty well aligned, at least on the domestic side, with Bernie Sanders. That's not something I support, and that's not something I'm ever going to support. But just because I'm not a supporter of a particular candidate's agenda doesn't mean I'm going to lie about them. Just because a candidate has a D next to their name doesn't mean that I don't respect them. And I do have a lot of respect for Tulsi Gabbard. And in a lot of ways, she is the best option in the Democratic primary, in my opinion. She's someone who has spoken out against the toxic nature of identity politics in the Democratic primary. She's somebody who said straight up that she's not for open borders. And she's not afraid to call out other candidates, like for example, Kamala Harris, on things that actually matter, like her record as a prosecutor. She also has an incredibly honorable service record in the military that continues to this day. She is still a major in the United States military. In fact, she's taken time off from her campaigns to go do her duties as a member of our military. So for me, it's an easy call when somebody who is nowhere near as honorable as Tulsi Gabbard decides to go on a radio show because she's bitter that Tulsi Gabbard pointed out that she was cheating in the DNC and resigned over her cheating in the DNC. And she decides to say that Tulsi is a Russian asset without presenting a shred of evidence.
They're also going to do third party again. And I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians. They have a bunch of sites and bots and other ways of supporting her so far. And that's assuming Jill Stein will give it up, which she might not, because she's also a Russian asset.
Agent, yeah.
She's a Russian asset. I mean, totally. And so they know they can't win without a third party candidate. And so I don't know who it's going to be, but I will guarantee you they'll have a vigorous third party challenge in the key states that they most need it.
Now, clips like that just go to show you how delusional Hillary Clinton is, how unfit to be president Hillary Clinton is. Because, according to her, not only is Donald Trump, evil bad orange man, a Russian asset who only won because the Russians were helping him, even though the Mueller report found no evidence that the Russians and the Trump campaign were coordinating, but Tulsi Gabbard, somebody who was working at the DNC, also a Russian asset, and Jill Stein, a third-party candidate, is a Russian asset. And she also says that Tulsi is setting up for like a secret run as a member of the Green Party, but she'll have to pry away the nomination from Jill Stein, who's also a Russian asset, in order to do so. Now, of course, one of the problems with that statement, among many problems with that statement, is that every part of it is utterly untrue. In fact, even the unimportant details of that statement that don't really matter are also untrue. Jill Stein is actually not seeking the nomination for the Green Party in 2020. So even if this conspiracy were true, Tulsi wouldn't have to pull away the nomination from Jill Stein. Hillary Clinton did not lose the election because of voters that would have voted for her had Jill Stein decided not to run. In fact, Gary Johnson of the Libertarian Party got way more votes than Jill Stein. So even if you're going by Hillary Clinton's logic, since the Libertarian Party is closer to the Republican Party than the Democratic Party, Trump would have lost way more voters to Gary Johnson than Hillary would have lost to Jill Stein. But that's if Hillary Clinton's logic was actually true. In reality, they actually did surveys of Jill Stein voters, and they found out that these people, a lot of them would have not shown up to vote had the choices only been Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. They hated both candidates. They showed up because Jill Stein inspired them. Hillary Clinton has never inspired anybody. That's why she lost. Also, she's a loser. Now that we're through with the unimportant stuff about Hillary Clinton's statement, I want to read you Tulsi Gabbard's response directly to Hillary Clinton, and then I want to get into some stuff that came out afterwards and give you my overall opinion. If you haven't already guessed what side I'm on, you're not paying attention. Great. Thank you, Hillary Clinton. You, the queen of warmongers, embodiment of corruption, and personification of the rot that has sickened the Democratic Party for so long, have finally come out from behind the curtain. From the day I announced my candidacy, there has been a concerted campaign to destroy my reputation. We wondered who was behind it and why. Now we know it was always you, through your proxies and your powerful allies in the corporate media and the war machine, afraid of the threat that I pose. It's clear now that the primary is between you and me. Don't cowardly hide behind your proxies. Join the race directly. That was a beautiful, dare I say perfect response to Hillary Clinton's baseless smear against Tulsi Gabbard. Now, of course, because most of the people in the media are proxies for Hillary Clinton, they've decided that Tulsi is at fault here. Because when Hillary Clinton baselessly accuses you, a member of the United States Armed Forces, of being a Russian asset, it's improper for you to respond in kind with an accurate description of Hillary Clinton. Now, this is to be expected. As I just said, the media is completely in the tank for Hillary Clinton. Days before the debate, a member of CNN's panel called Tulsi Gabbard a Russian asset.
There is a chance that Tulsi is not just working for the United States of America, but I digress. So,
oh, wait a minute. What does that mean?
That's not just an allegation. I firmly believe that.
Message is coming now.
No, here I know. Watch the bots come on Twitter now. I firmly believe that Tulsi Gabbard stands on that stage is the antithesis to what the other 11 individuals stand for, especially when it comes to issues such as foreign policy. There is no question. Yeah. There is no question that Tulsi Gabbard, of all the 12, is a puppet for the Russian government.
Whoa.
I mean,
that was strong.
How is there no question?
Well, I think that you look at her relationships, doing the bidding, her relationships and affection for people like Bashar al-Assad, her admiring somebody who we know to be a war criminal, propping them up. I think that those are questions that are going to have to be answered.
Shortly after Tulsi Gabbard's statement against Hillary Clinton, a panelist on an MSNBC panel actually doubled down on the idea that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset, saying Tulsi didn't really deny that she was a Russian asset, which I found weird.
One thing that was one thing that was interesting about Tulsi Gabbard's response, I mean, she went after Hillary Clinton. She was strong. She said that she wasn't going to run as a third-party candidate. She never denied being a Russian asset. That was the one aspect that was missing from her response, which you think that would be the first, in the first line or two. It was not there.
When Hillary Clinton says there's a Russian asset, doesn't say anybody's name, and Tulsi Gabbard goes, "How dare you call me a Russian asset?"
Right.
I mean, this is...
Well, wait, but to Kimberly's point, she didn't say
she didn't even say she wasn't.
She said it was a Russian asset. To your point, Hillary Clinton didn't name names.
Right. Which is so obnoxious for two reasons. One, had Tulsi Gabbard in her statement specifically denied the allegation, they would have said, why would she repeat the allegation unless that was something that bothered her? And two, during the CNN New York Times debate, she called out both CNN and the New York Times for claiming that she was a Russian asset. And call me crazy, but if you're going to accuse somebody of treason, and I don't mean treason the way it gets thrown around in the media today, I mean actual treason as defined in the Constitution, either waging war against the United States or providing aid and comfort to our enemies. Call me crazy, but if you're going to accuse a sitting member of Congress, somebody who is running for president, somebody who is currently in the United States military, of committing treason as defined by the Constitution, then you should provide some evidence. And if you're not going to provide any evidence and you're not going to withdraw your accusations and then give an apology, a much deserved apology, then don't try to weasel your way out of this. I've seen a lot of surrogates from Hillary Clinton who realize that they can't defend the ridiculous nature of Hillary Clinton's comments, decide to try to gaslight the American people and say, well, Hillary Clinton never mentioned Tulsi Gabbard specifically.
When Hillary Clinton says there's a Russian asset, doesn't say anybody's name, and Tulsi Gabbard goes, "How dare you call me a Russian asset?"
Right.
I mean, this is...
Well, wait, but to Kimberly's point, she didn't say
she didn't even say she wasn't.
She said it was a Russian asset. To your point, Hillary Clinton didn't name names.
Right.
So it's weird, and maybe a sign of the fact that Tulsi Gabbard actually is a Russian asset, that she got so defensive about it when Hillary didn't name her specifically, which would be a dumb argument because we all knew exactly who Hillary Clinton was talking about, but it's an even dumber argument because Hillary Clinton did in fact name Tulsi Gabbard specifically. And by the way, you can't even argue that she did so in the heat of the moment during an interview where she was getting passionate about the debates and talking about the 2016 election, which she lost miserably. One of her spokespeople released a statement hours later clarifying that Hillary Clinton was referring to Tulsi Gabbard specifically. So not only are Hillary Clinton and her surrogates liars and cowards, but they're also weasels trying to get out of the fact that they just got exposed as liars and cowards. Now again, I don't agree with Tulsi Gabbard on everything. In fact, I don't agree with her on a lot of things. But there's one thing that she is 100% right about. And that is, if you go after the war interest, there is no depth that the media and politicians aligned with the war interest won't sink to attack you. Remember, Tulsi resigned from a high position in the DNC. You don't get to a position that high unless the Democratic Party is grooming you for leadership in the future. So when the Democratic Party thought Tulsi Gabbard would play ball, when they thought she was just a woman of color with a service record that they could use to promote their agenda, they were fine with her. There was no talk of Tulsi being a Russian asset. In fact, she was being groomed for future leadership within the Democratic Party. But then she decided to go up against Hillary Clinton. She decided to reveal that her principles weren't pretend like other people in the Democratic Party. And all of a sudden, she's not only not an establishment Democrat, but she's a traitor and a secret Republican. This isn't acceptable. This is clearly a dirty trick, a revenge play by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party against Tulsi Gabbard. And other presidential candidates, especially those running on the Democratic side, should call it out. And in fact, it's a little bit embarrassing that only 2 at the time of me filming this video have called it out. And the first was Andrew Yang, who did so right away. And the second was Mr. Irrelevant himself, Robert Francis O'Rourke. Now, I don't expect a lot from the candidates running for president on the Democratic side. I am, in fact, extremely surprised that O'Rourke said anything about this and didn't bow to Hillary Clinton. I'm not surprised about Yang because Yang is more of an independent-minded person running in the primary. But the person who is an absolute disappointment, an absolute failure, and the personification of weakness is Bernie Sanders. Tulsi Gabbard resigned because the DNC was cheating Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders, at the time of me filming this video, has not condemned Hillary Clinton's statement. Now, he might do so by the time this video is edited and published, but it's a little strange that Donald Trump, the Republican president, the person who beat Hillary Clinton, by the way, in the election, I think we all need to remind Hillary Clinton of that, but Donald Trump has released a statement condemning Hillary Clinton's comments about Tulsi Gabbard. So Bernie Sanders has not condemned the person who attacked somebody who resigned because he was being cheated by the person that attacked her. Anyway, that's all I really have for you guys today. Let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments below. If you like this video, then please show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social medias. If you want to support me, you can do so via one-time donation on Venmo or PayPal, or do so monthly through Patreon and Subscribestar. This has been me talking about Tulsi Gabbard smacking down Hillary Clinton. Till next time.